My solutions, my ideas are perfect, and yours aren't. And as soon as we do that, what happens? Then it becomes judgment. Then it becomes control. One virus matters: our ego, our fallacy that we can claim ownership of right and wrong. Clever deceit is still tempting us. That truth is nothing more than a feeling. My job is to assist the truth, to remove the shroud of opinion and reveal our spirit. The battle for our souls is now. My name is Monsignor Cantuzanu. Game on. As we all know, we're in a mess. We want to get out of it. We want to get from this side across the stream to the other side without drowning. And to do that, we need rocks, something that we can stand on, something that's solid. Last time I talked about the first rock, life. We begin with the respect of loving all that God has given to us. And if we can't agree with that, we're falling into the stream and we're going to drown. So you got to stand on the rock of life. And as soon as we start making exceptions, you're chipping away at that, and you got a smaller rock, and you have something solid to stand on. Life, that's the first rock. Now the next rock, and before I talk about that, I want to remind you the importance of testing the rock, because lots of times if you're crossing a stream, it looks okay, but it's either not on solid ground or it's slippery. Maybe there's moss on top of it, or it's wet, and you think you're okay, and then you're going to slip off, because the next rock is one that looks inviting, and that rock is perfection. And we think that that's a rock that we can stand on. But it's very deceptive, and if we step on that rock, we're going to slip and fall. And of course, at first view, you're going to say, well, that's ridiculous. Who believes in perfection? But there actually is a very subtle temptation. And we see this more and more, to believe in the reality and the possibility of perfection. We see that in some people that are religious fanatics. They think that in their relationship with God and in their passion, that they can achieve perfection. We see that in people we know that drive ourselves crazy. They think that they are perfect. And of course, we see it in those that believe that we just have enough regulations, enough bureaucracy, that we can force a utopia, that we can create perfection. So when you think about it, even though in normal circumstances we would say, like, that's ridiculous, but there's a lot of temptation to think we can actually do it. But what happens is, as soon as you open that door, then becomes the next challenge. And that is, and I'm going to date myself here, but there was a time a number of years ago with a new philosophy of psychology called transactional analysis, and it was looking for solutions. And it talked about analyzing the interaction that takes place between people. And talking about that, there was a book that kind of simplified all that, and it said, I'm okay, you're okay. But the temptation of perfection is like, I'm okay, you're not. And look how many instances we have where that happens. And that's where we believe I can become perfect, or my solutions, my ideas are perfect, and yours aren't. And as soon as we do that, what happens? Then it becomes judgment. Then it becomes control. And so, while we at first glance just say, like, this perfection, it's just a ridiculous path to follow, but it becomes very, very tempting. And so what's the rock we got to stand on? The rock of humility. Humility, that is solid. And that means we're like, I'm not perfect, you're not perfect. And as soon as we can agree on that, when there's a sense of humility, there's an openness, then you can actually have discussion, then you can actually have dialogue, and you actually begin to get somewheres. So there's a great temptation, that perfection. Don't step on that, guaranteed. We're going to fall into the creek and we're going to drown. Humility, we need to stand on the rock of humility, and that presents an opening where we can begin to get a little bit further across the creek, finally to the other side that we want to reach. Humility, not perfection.